again, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see here, we are talking about saying that LeBron James, according to LeBron stance, can carry any team to the NBA Finals because he could take any supporting cast, and take them to the NBA Finals. That's just how amazing LeBron James is. LeBron James is a great player. I'm not taking anything away from him, but let's call the spade a spade here. People keep making the claim that he's this the greatest thing since sliced bread, and you go on your show to claim that you're the greatest player of all time, disrespecting the other greats of the game. I'm sorry, but your boy Luis Velez just had to go in. So, the 10 worst supporting cast of the NBA Finals teams from the 1960s to the present. You're asking yourself, Luis, what are you going to do with this? Well, according to LeBron, and according to his fan base, and the mainstream media, he can take 4 cans of paint and take them to the NBA Finals. He'd be taking trash teams to the finals. He'd be taking all these bums that he's played with to the finals, disrespecting the amount of work that these guys have put in to even help with LeBron, taking them to the NBA Finals. So, let's go down the list. The 2006 Miami Heat. If you look at Dwayne Wade and Shaq there, Dwayne Wade averaged 28.6 rebounds, 6 assists in the postseason. If you look at Shaq, Shaq wasn't even in his prime. He gave you a solid 18 and 10, but this is not 29 and 13 Shaq. Antoine Walker, 13 points on shooting 40% from the field. Jason Williams, 9 on 41%. Udonis Haslem, one of the unsung heroes of that 2006 NBA Finals, gave you 9.7 rebounds and a block, I believe, or an assist on 49% from the field. And this was not a good free throw shooting team. Look at that. Shaq shot 37% in the playoffs. Competition. They beat the 41-41 Bulls, 49-33 Nets, 64-18 Pistons. Well, see, their competition was kind of weak in the beginning, but they finished strong by beating 2 60-win teams. As a matter of fact, they beat the Mavericks, who had the 3rd best record in the NBA, and they beat the Detroit Pistons, who had the best record in the NBA. The team with the 2nd best record and the best record in the Western Conference, that would be the 63-win San Antonio Spurs. As we said right here, as mentioned earlier, man, competition is not a factor when ranking the worst supporting cast of the NBA Finals teams, but it is still worth noting that Dwayne Wade carried a large load on the 06 Heat while beating 2 60-win teams. The 06 Heat are the only title team since the 97 Bulls and the 09 to do so. The 2009 Magic beat 2 60-win teams thanks to Garnett's injury, but are the only non-title team to do so. The 97 Bulls, they beat the 61-win Miami Heat in 97 and the 64-win Jazz in the 97 Finals. Shaq's decline has started in the 05-06 season. That's actually BS. It even started before that, failing to average a double-double for the first time in his career. In the 2006 playoffs, he averaged 18 and 9 on a great 61%, but with a horrendous free throw percentage. He averaged a playoff career high 3.7 turnovers. Shaq was the only good offensive help that Dwayne Wade had in the playoffs, as Walker, Williams, and Haslem scored very low volumes on mediocre efficiency. And remember, Alonzo Mourning was a bench player at that point in his career, so he was coming off the bench. Let's see. Due to the lack of offensive help, Dwayne Wade had to lead one of the top 10 lowest scoring supporting casts among the title teams for the overall playoffs. So, ladies and gentlemen, it says right here, the team with the lowest scoring supporting cast for the overall playoffs in the post-1954 shot clock era. Let's go down the list. The 94 Rockets, 68.3 points per game. These are teams that have sub 70 points per game from their supporting cast. Number 9, the 2006 Heat, 67.8. The 93 Bulls, 67.3. The 2012 Heat, that's the one with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. I already know LeBron fans are gonna go, oh, you see, LeBron was not on a super team. See, he's in the top 10 for players for teams that have scored sub 70 points in the shot clock era. See, he didn't have that much help. You didn't say that when he was with the Miami Heat. You said that when he was with the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is where you're going to get exposed, ladies and gentlemen, for those LeBron fans. 2012, Miami Heat, 67 a game. The 96 Bulls, 66.7 points per game, number 6. Number 5, the 92 Bulls, 65.9. Number 4, 2004 Pistons, 65.6. Number 3, the 99 Spurs, the one that Tim Duncan was on, 65.2. Number 2, the 97 Bulls, 61.5. And then the number 1, the 98 Bulls at 60.8 points per game. Hey, I just noticed something. Look at the Chicago Bulls and how many times they appear in the top 10. Look at that. At number 8, the 93 Bulls. At number 6, the 96 Bulls. At number 5, the 92 Bulls. At number 2, the 97 Bulls. And number 1, the 98 Bulls. Oh, but Michael Jordan, he had Scottie Pippen. He had Dennis Rodman. Oh, but Scottie Pippen, he averaged 20 points per game, 22 points per game in the playoffs. You know what's funny? That every time I mention what are Scottie's numbers in the NBA Finals, people say he averaged 20. And then when I look, I said, you give me his playoff numbers. I said, what were his NBA Finals numbers? Did he average 20 points in the finals? You get exposed. He averaged 18.9 points per game in the finals. That's what I'm trying to tell you is Jordan never had a 20-point score on average. Don't say Scottie scored 20 points in games. On average. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Jordan scored no lower than 27 points per game. And that was in his worst finals in 96, where he shot only 41%. But look at this. The Bulls have 5 of the top 10 lowest scoring supporting cast for championships. 5 of the top 10 since the shot clock era. But people over here glorifying LeBron in terms of how he took trash teams to the finals, when in Jordan's 5 of his 6 championship seasons, his teams had the 5 worst supporting cast in the top 10. Oh, but my goodness, it's going to get even worse. In the finals, Wade would have been less offensive as no team even reached 14 points, and the Heat had the 4th lowest scoring supporting cast on a title team for the NBA Finals alone. Who did LeBron join again? Dwayne Wade? Don't get me wrong, Shaq is a great player, but he was not prime Shaq when he was with Kobe Bryant. The Miami Heat of 2006 had the 4th lowest supporting cast that won an NBA title. 4th lowest supporting cast that won an NBA title. 4th lowest scoring on a title team. Now we go to the sub 60 supporting cast. Check it out. Check it out. Look at this. The 94 Rockets, 59.3 points per game. The 2006 Heat, 58.2 points per game. The 99 Spurs, 57.4 points per game. The 97 Bulls, 55 points per game. And the 98 Bulls, 54.5 points per game. What do you notice here? That the Chicago Bulls have the 2 highest, are 1 and 2 in the lowest scoring supporting cast in NBA history since the shot clock era. This is for the overall playoffs. This is for the championship teams in the finals. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. They had the lowest scoring supporting cast in the finals. So LeBron James, I'm going to ask you and your fans again, took trash teams to the finals and had this low scoring supporting cast? So how the hell are the Cavs not in the top 10? Answer that question. But you can't, can you? Are you going to tell me these are biased stats? Hell no. Hell no. Look at this right here. The 97 Bulls. Look at this. For the playoffs. 31 from Michael Jordan on 46% shooting. Scottie Pippen, 42%, 79% from the free throw line. 19, 7, and 4 for the 97 postseason. Dennis Rodman, 4 points. Tony Kukoc, 8 points. Look at those field goal percentages. Ron Harper, 8 points per game. But the people want to talk about how Michael had all this crazy help. The Bulls were a great defensive team, man. That's the one thing that they can hang their hat on. But they've never had this crazy supporting cast that LeBron James has had. So, competition. Chicago Bulls. I said Chicago Bulls. The Washington Bullets at the time. That's when Steve Webb was on that team. Look at the competition. 44 wins. Okay, not really drastic. But look at the last 3 rounds. Against a very good Hawks team that was one of the best defensive teams in the league. They were top 10 defense that year. 56 wins. The Miami Heat, the number 2 defensive rated team in the NBA, 61 wins. The Utah Jazz, 8th in defensive efficiency, 64 wins. But, Michael Jordan wasn't really facing any competition. One may be wondering how a team with Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman could be one of the top 10 lesser supporting cast for an NBA Finals team. If we go beyond name value alone, we will see that there are multiple reasons why this was the case in 97. The 97 Bulls have the second lowest supporting cast, Team PPG, leading scorer PPG for championship team in the shot clock era, both for the playoffs and the NBA Finals. Jordan's 98 Bulls are the only title team with a lesser scoring supporting cast. But Jordan had this crazy amount of help compared to LeBron James, right? So look at this, the teams with 6 sub-66 supporting cast for the playoffs. As you can see, the 92-7 Bulls, number 2. 98 Bulls, number 1. Tim Duncan, second year in the league, was on the 3rd worst supporting cast, lowest scoring supporting cast in the shot clock era, and that was the lockout season, if you remember. The Detroit Pistons, which is why the Lakers should be ashamed of themselves, because they had the 4th lowest supporting cast in the shot clock era, and they beat the Los Angeles Lakers. And look at this, ladies and gentlemen, the 92, 97, and 98 Bulls round out the top 5 for sub 66 points per game, lowest supporting cast in the playoffs overall. 92, 97, and 98. And then when we want to do the sub 60, the 97 Bulls, number 2, and 98 Bulls, number 1. The Pistons had it with sub 6'6", and the Spurs had it in the finals with sub number 3. Look at that. Including title teams, the 0-1 Sixers are the only team to make the finals with a lesser supporting cast than the 97 or 98 Bulls. Other than those 2 teams, can you believe that? The Philadelphia 76ers at 60.3. This is for teams that went to the finals without winning the title. That would be the Sixers on Iverson. The 97 Bulls are the only team to win the championship or even reach the finals with only 2 double-digit scores in the playoffs in Jordan and Pippen. Even Pippen had mediocre efficiency on under 42%. No other Bull even reached 8 points per game for the playoffs. The only 2 guys that reached 8 were Tony Kukoc and Ron Harper. Outside of scoring, the Bulls were still lacking in other areas, as Jordan led the team in 5 out of 5 categories in the last 3 rounds of the playoffs, tied Rodman in rebounds despite Rodman winning every rebound title from 92 to 98. That's 7 straight seasons he led the league in rebounding. For a past prime shooting guard to have led the team in rebounding and blocks after the first round says a lot about the other Bulls' decline in overall production, including the 3 games of the first round. Jordan was 1 total block and 10 total rebounds shy of leading the Bulls in all 5 categories for the entire playoffs, on top of carrying the 2nd largest offensive load on a title team after his own 1998 Bulls had the 3rd largest, including non-finals teams due to the 2001 Sixers. In the Eastern Conference Finals against that great defense, Michael Jordan shot 39% in the series, and he still was able to average 38, 4, 2, and 1 on 43% in the 4 wins of the 5-game series. Game 4, Jordan attempted 35 shots and shot 9 of 35, and the Bulls lost. It hurt his averages, which could have led to the false impression that he performed poorly for the playoff series, and still won regardless. He closed the Heat out in Game 5 despite Pippen only playing 7 minutes due to a foot injury. And people forget that huge blow that Alonzo Mourning hit Scottie Pippen with in the head in Game 4, where Scottie had that huge lump on his head. So in the 97 finals, he scored or assisted on 50% of his team points, assuming all assists are exactly 2 points. Under this criteria, only 91 Jordan, 93 Jordan, and 2015 LeBron have done so in the NBA Finals. While Jordan did carry the largest offensive load in 97 and 98, the Bulls' defensive supporting cast was still good enough to prevent them from being ranked any lesser amongst all NBA Finals team supporting cast. So that's the one, and that's what I keep telling you guys about the 90s. A defensive era. And the one thing that the Bulls could hang their hat on was defense. But offensively, they were very challenged. You got the 2001 76ers with Allen Iverson. Look at those numbers, ladies and gentlemen. People just continue to forget that the era that these guys played in. This tells you how much weaker the Eastern Conference is. Look at that. The 41-41 Pacers, 47-win Raptors, 52-30 Bucks, and 56-26 Lakers. This is when the Eastern Conference started to get weaker. If you take away Iverson actually carried the largest offensive load of any team to reach the NBA Finals in the shot clock era that did not win a championship. So let's make that clear. The 2001 Sixers averaged 60.3 points per game in the 22 playoff games that Iverson played. No other team to reach the NBA Finals has had less points per game outside of their leading scorer. So, prior to facing the undefeated Lakers in the finals, the Sixers were 7-2 when Iverson took 30-plus shots, and they were 4-5 when he took less than 30 shots. In the 0-1 finals, Iverson took 41 shots in the lone game that the Sixers won, but they went 0-4 when he took 29 to 32 shots. People forget also the impact of Larry Brown and the Hall of Fame coach that he is. I mean, let's also look at the 2000 Pacers. Their best competition was that 2000 Los Angeles Lakers. Tough era. These guys don't really score. Reggie Miller, 24 in the postseason. Jalen Rose, 21. But look at that supporting cast, ladies and gentlemen. Rick Smiths, 11. Dale Davis, 8. Mark Jackson, 8. The 2000 Pacers are off the side as one of the worst teams to make the NBA Finals, as usually been the case with each of the 1999 to 2003 Eastern Conference champions. And this is what I want to understand something. If the East has been weak for so long, as we are looking at right here, through the 2000 Pacers and the 01 Sixers, and people have been on record as saying that the Lakers faced the weakest competition of any dynastic championship team in 3 straight years, because the New Jersey Nets won 52 games when they went to the finals. The 2003 Detroit Pistons had the #1 seed and they only won 50 games, ladies and gentlemen. Only won 50 games. But LeBron fans want to come and talk about how LeBron has dominated a conference because he's a man's amongst boys, when the Eastern Conference has been weak since the year of 2000. But then when you see all these prominent stars start to rise in the Eastern Conference and you got about like 5 legit good teams, all of a sudden the Eastern Conference is weak. That Toronto went to the finals because the Eastern Conference is weak. Or when Giannis Antetokounmpo wins 60 games with the Bucks, that the Eastern Conference is weak. And that the reason that it's weak and now that it's competitive is because LeBron left. See how these people make excuses and move the goalposts? That's exactly what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. This is what I'm talking about. See, if you look at that, Jalen Rose putting up 21 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists on solid efficiency and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, okay. And people understand the impact that Reggie Miller had in those 2000 playoffs. The Sixers won games 4 and 5 of that series. When Reggie Miller got ejected, when he got, I think Matt Geiger gave him a flagrant foul, and then Reggie Miller tried to go into him, and then they got into it. And once they got into it, Reggie and Matt got ejected, and Reggie was suspended for Game 5 because the Pacers were up 3. Was it? They were up. No, they were up 3-0 when Reggie got in. When Reggie got. When Reggie was got suspended for Game 5. So they were already up 3-0 at that point, and then the Sixers kind of took advantage and then won 2 games back-to-back before Reggie Miller came back, and then they closed them out by 16. And so, it was one of the weaker teams to go to the finals that year, but Reggie Miller's impact, it just tells you. He impacts them offensively, believe it or not, his movement without the basketball. And face it, he's their best scorer. So he was averaging 24 points per game. 24.6 points per game for the Pacers. Clearly their best offensive player. And he's just a shooter. That's the crazy part. And they had a very weak supporting cast. Oh, Lordy, here we go. The 2007 Cleveland Cavaliers. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to read to you is going to be very striking because I've just mentioned it just right about now. And LeBron fans are not going to want to hear this, but they need to stop trying to flip and listen to narratives that the media keeps spewing, that they keep regurgitating, basically hitting that kicking you that sludge of toxic, telling you that LeBron James is this amazing carrier, that you could put him on any carrier, man, and he could deliver for you. Let us read. It says here, playoff statistics. LeBron James, 25, 8, and 8 on 42%. Zydrunas Ilgauskas, double-double on 49% from the field, 84 from the free throw line. Drew Gooden, 11 points, 8 rebounds on 49% from the field. Larry Hughes, 11 on 35%. He wasn't that great. Anderson Varejao, 6 points on 58% from the 56% from the free throw line, 51% from the field. Well, look at their competition. Hey, this is in this what I've been talking about? The 41 and 41 Wizards without Gilbert Arenas and Caron Butler. Both of them made all-star teams that year. They sweep them. The New Jersey Nets. Like, really? Next. The Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons. No Ben Wallace, no Larry Brown. You have an older team. People want to say, well, the Pistons were 6th in offense and 7th in defense. That's all cute. But there really was no shot blocking at that point. Ben Wallace is their best rim defender, but he's no longer there. And that's because him and Flip didn't get along, because how Flip was looking for offense and Ben Wallace provided defense. But because Detroit had such a hard time scoring, but that was because Flip changed the philosophy of the Detroit Pistons. And so they became so offensively, offensive minded and geared themselves to becoming an offensive team. They got away from their man-to-man defensive principles. So they were focused on scoring more. It took up, which was just very stupid because Detroit is not known for a fast break team playing a fast pace. They don't have the personnel to be a fast paced team. Flip Saunders tried to do that, and it bit them in the ass by the time they faced the Miami Heat. Really stupid. And he was logging heavy minutes on his starters too. People tend to forget that as well. So looky here. In 2007, the East was one of the weakest conferences in the history of the 4-round format. So a mediocre team had to make the NBA Finals by default. After the departure of 4-time Defensive Player of the Year Ben Wallace, the 2007 Pistons tied for the third worst record for a number 1 seed in the 4-round format at 53-29, along with the 2017 Celtics. Hey, remember that? Because what did I say, ladies and gentlemen? Did you see how Cleveland easily breezed through that postseason in 2017? And all I kept hearing LeBron fans go, they demolished the number 1 team in the league in Boston in the Eastern Conference. Who did the Boston Celtics have that were really any a threat to that Cleveland Cavaliers team? The Cavaliers were more talented than they were. And the Cleveland Cavaliers were one of the worst defensive teams in the second half of that season. But people were gloating over the fact that they went 12-2 in the postseason. Or they went 12-1. They went 12-1. And that game 3 was a fluke win by Boston because Cleveland really should have swept through the playoffs. That's how easy Cleveland had it. They were the most stacked, talented team in that conference. And people still want to be with this bull crap about how LeBron James is doing all this and all this and all this and all this and 8 straight finals and all this. But look at this. How about this? The Cavaliers had the easiest road to the finals since the '87 Lakers, being the only team since then to beat two 500 or worse teams to reach the NBA Finals. You see that right there? 500 teams right there. Washington Wizards, New Jersey Nets at the time. Nevertheless, the supporting cast outside of LeBron James was very mediocre offensively, with all of his teammates averaging under 13 points per game for the playoffs. Game 5 of the 2007 Eastern Conference Finals against the Pistons is when LeBron completely put the Cavs on his back, scoring 29 of the last 30 along with the game winner to take a 3-2 lead and swing the series in Cleveland's favor. LeBron was struggle shooting-wise, 27% in Game 6. I remember he went 3 for 11. I saw that game. But his 14 rebounds and 8 assists along with Daniel Gibson's 31.6 rebounds and 2 assists on 78% shooting. But LeBron doesn't have help. Were enough to clinch Cleveland's first NBA Finals appearance. Most LeBron fans would think that the '07 Cavs supporting cast should be ranked within the top 5 worst NBA Finals supporting cast. But while they were poor offensively, they were good enough defensively to keep them from being ranked any lower. Kind of reminds you of the Chicago Bulls, doesn't it? That they were such a trash team, but people forget that they were 5th in points per game and they were 4th in defensive efficiency. So their defense really didn't make them a trash team, did they? Very interesting, right? Right. The '07 Finals is a good example of this. While LeBron struggled to guard Tony Parker, the Cavaliers' front court held Tim Duncan under 45% in the finals. Oh, I can't wait. So then read this. Of Duncan's 6 NBA Finals appearances, the 2005 Finals against Larry Brown's Pistons is the only one in which he shot a lower field goal percentage at 41.9. Duncan had 23, 11, and 3 on 54% shooting through 3 rounds compared to 18, 12, and 4 under 45% in the finals. But I thought LeBron's team was trash. And they held the great Tim Duncan, who was a top 10 player in my book, by the way. I have him at number 6 on my list. To 18, 12, and 4 on 45% shooting. Less than 45%. As a matter of fact, the 2007 Cavaliers allowed the least points per game of any team in the playoffs. The only team on this list to do so, in large part due to the rebounding and defense of their front court, in spite of LeBron performing so poorly, are in the 2007 Finals, being the only player to simultaneously shoot under 40%, along with averaging 5 turnovers a game, 5.8 in a final series. The 4 games were only decided by an average margin of 6 points per game. Wow. Lewis out here exposing narratives for the LeBron fanboys to see. This narrative that you guys have been running for the last 12, 13 years. The Cavaliers' defense held the Spurs to 85 or less in 3 of the 4 games, a major factor in keeping the games close in spite of LeBron's poor two-way play along with their containment of Tim Duncan. Can you believe this? The games were decided by an average of 6 points per game in the 4 games. The only game that the Cavaliers even lost by at least a good amount was double digits, and that was into game 2. The score was 103-92. I remember that game clearly. I saw that whole finals. I believe to this point it's the lowest rated NBA Finals in, I think, since the merger, or at least the shot clock era. That 2007 NBA Finals. It's the lowest rated. Wow. The 2003, 02 and 03 Nets. Once again, exposing narratives on this Eastern Conference. Look at this. New Jersey Nets, 42 and 40 Pacers, 44 and 38 Hornets, 49 and 33 Celtics. It got better each round, but look at the bottom line, bro. Look at that. There's really no legit 50-win teams. Look at the New Jersey Nets. They played 5 40-win teams in the 2 years. 5 of the 8 teams they played in the 2 years that they went to the finals won less than 50 games, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. But people coming out here talking about LeBron dominating the East and he's the king of the East. Look at these teams. The 02 and 03 Nets benefited from playing in the 2 weakest conferences in the 4-round format, with the 1 seed having 52 and 50 wins in 02 and 03 respectively. But the Eastern Conference was never weak according to some of these LeBron fanboys and fangirls. These are the worst records for any 1 seed in the 4-round format. Nevertheless, the fact that the 2001 Nets prior in the 01 season were 26 and 56 prior to Jason Kidd's arrival, despite playing in a weak East, further emphasizes how poor of a team the Nets were outside of Jason Kidd. Looking at Kenyon Martin's numbers in the 02-03 playoffs and Richard Jefferson's in 03, one may wonder why Jason Kidd's Nets are ranked among the top 5 worst NBA Finals supporting cast. They may have put up great numbers, but they still look somewhat decent on the box score. The truth is that Kidd's teammates only put up decent numbers because of his own playmaking. If you remember, a lot of these guys on this team can't create their own shot. Kerry Kittles can't do it. Kenyon Martin and Richard Jefferson never averaged 13 or 10 points per game in a playoff series without playing next to Jason Kidd. Yet both had multiple 20-point game playoff series when playing with Jason Kidd. Defensively, the Nets were also dependent on Jason Kidd. The 01 Nets were a bottom 10 defense prior to Kidd's arrival, yet had the best defensive rating in 02 and 03, along with a top 5 and top 2 defense in points per game allowed. Jason Kidd even led the 02 Nets in rebounding for the playoffs, the only point guard to do so on an NBA Finals team other than Magic Johnson in 82 and 83. Because of the Nets' complete dependence on Kidd to set up their offense as well as the anchor of their defense, they deserve to be ranked as one of the top 5 worst supporting casts for an NBA Finals of NBA Finals teams. The 2003 Spurs. Look at this. You got Tim Duncan there, 25, 15, and 5 on 68% from the free throw line, 53 from the field. You got Tony Parker, 15. This was only his second year. This was Mano's rookie season. Stephen Jackson, 13 per game. Look at these field goal percentages, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, this is the more tougher defensive era. The early 2000s defense, really something. Look at their competition. Obviously, much tougher in the West. Remember, the Lakers were a shell of themselves after the three-peat. And the Mavericks, their toughest competition, who won 60 games that year. Similar to the 1997 Bulls, and one may question how the 03 Spurs had a mediocre supporting cast with the likes of Tony Parker, Mano, and David Robinson on the team. Once again, it's important to avoid basing the bulk of our assessment on name value alone. To start off, the Spurs are 1-4 in the playoffs when Duncan did not play. The 2000 Spurs missed Duncan due to injury in the first round, and the 02 Spurs missed Duncan for Game 4 of the first round due to his father's funeral. In spite of the Spurs having home court advantage in both series and facing 2 injured teams, the Suns without Kidd, Sonics without Rashard Lewis, the Spurs still only obtained a 200 or 20% playoff record in his absence, 1-4. With regards to 2003 in particular, Tony Parker was only in his second season and put a mediocre 15 on 40% for the playoffs. Manu was a rookie who also put up unimpressive stats of 9, 4, and 3 on 39%. David Robinson was already playing the last games of his career. He was 37 years old. He was past his prime. Only 8, 7, and 1 on 54%. Robinson and Bowen provided good defensive help, but Duncan was clearly the best defender on the team and the only productive offensive player. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, I have Tim Duncan in my top 10. Tim Duncan's defensive dominance was on full display in the 03 finals, averaging a finals record 5.3 blocks, along with 17 rebounds per game, the highest in a final series since Moses Malone's 18 in the 83 famous line, fo, 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 which happened 4-0, 4-1, 4-0, 4-0. No, 4-0, 4-1, 4-0. Because I forgot divisional play didn't begin until 84. Duncan also completely shut down Kenyon Martin in the finals. Kenyon Martin, from rounds 1 through 3, 20 and 9 on 50% shooting, and just under 3 turnovers per game. In the finals, 14 and 10, 2 assists a game on 34 and on nearly 4 turnovers a game. So Duncan even had to lead the Spurs in assists for the playoffs in addition to his expected role as the top scorer, rebounder, and shot blocker. This makes Duncan the only power forward to lead a finals title team in 4 out of 5 categories. That would be points, rebounds, blocks, and assists. Some may feel that Jason Kidd's Nets still had a lesser supporting cast, but I believe the 03 finals proved the opposite. Duncan had a far better individual performance than Kidd, putting up 24, 17, 5, 1, and 5 on 50% to Kidd's 26 and 8 on 36%. As mentioned before, Duncan's 5.3 blocks is a finals record, and his 17 rebounds is also the highest since Moses in 83. Duncan was by far the best defender in the series, evidenced by his complete shutdown of Kenyon Martin, as well as the best offensive player by a clear margin, in spite of Duncan greatly outperforming Kidd in nearly every aspect. Outside of passing, the Nets still took the Spurs to 6 games with a 6.8 points per game average margin of victory in victory. In Game 6, it took nearly a quadruple double for Duncan, along with an incredible fourth quarter performance to prevent a Game 7. The Spurs were down 10 with 10:30 left in the fourth quarter, from which point Duncan scored or assisted on 11 points to go with 6 rebounds and 3 blocks in the fourth quarter alone. Due to the competitive nature of the 03 finals, in spite of Duncan's vastly superior individual play compared to Jason Kidd, I believe the 03 Spurs had a lesser supporting cast than Kidd's in 02 or 03. This is not to diminish the heavy load that Jason Kidd carried on the Nets. It's just that Duncan's load was even greater by comparison. The 75 Warriors, not going to get into that. The 94 Rockets. Hakeem Olajuwon, clearly the best player, 29, 11, and 4. Remember, he won Defensive Player of the Year. He won the regular season MVP and the finals MVP. He's the only player to accomplish that feat in NBA history. Defensive Player of the Year, regular season MVP, and finals MVP in the same season. Only player ever. Not even Michael Jordan did that. Solid competition right there. Solid. It's solid. Well, look at that. Kenny Smith, 11. Otis Thorpe, 11. Robert Horry, 12. Vernon Maxwell, 14. They utilized 2 guards right there in the starting lineup in Maxwell and Kenny Smith. Undersized backcourt. Wasn't Vernon Maxwell, I believe, 6'4", but he didn't even look 6'4". So the case was made for Hakeem's 94 playoff run as the greatest individual playoff run of all time when factoring both individual and level of competition. For starters, the Rockets have one of the top 10 lesser scoring playoff teams. Remember, the 94 Rockets are number 10, sub 70 at, remember, number 10, 68.3. Oh, that's right. They also had the top 15 hardest strength of schedule for title teams. Oh, and the Chicago Bulls, the 97 Bulls, they had the toughest road to the NBA championship. They had the second lowest supporting cast and the toughest road of any title team in terms of strength of schedule to an NBA championship. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. So look at this, the top 15 highest collective win percentage of playoff opponents of title teams. Let's look at here. Let's see. The 95 Rockets, 72%. The Chicago Bulls, 68%. The 2016 Cavaliers, 67%. The 02 Lakers, the 93 Bulls, the 01 Lakers, the 2011 Mavericks, the 2005 Spurs, the 2014 San Antonio Spurs, the 98 Bulls, the 06 Heat, the 09 Lakers, the 94 Rockets, the 96 Bulls, and the 2000 Lakers. How about this, ladies and gentlemen? You know what I noticed too? here's something I noticed. Look at that. The 2002 Lakers, the 2000 Lakers, the 01 Lakers, and the 09 Lakers appear on this list 4 times. The 2000 Lakers are actually the 15th highest. The 2009 Lakers are the 12th highest. Let's see, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. The 2001 Lakers are the sixth highest? Yeah, they're the 6th highest. And the 02 Lakers are the 4th highest, which tells you Kobe Bryant and Shaq play some serious competition in their championship teams through the first 3 rounds. The NBA Finals was a different story. The 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers played the best win percentage. Well, we have to factor this in. That best percentage right there that you see right there, ladies and gentlemen, a large part of that is that 73-9 Golden State Warriors. What I would do is I would have to calculate the percentages to see what their win percentage was before they faced the Golden State Warriors in the 73-9 team, because that team won, I believe, over 82% of their games that year. So let's keep that in mind. But ladies and gentlemen, and then the Chicago Bulls, what do you notice there? The 96, 98, 93. Look at that. The 93, 96, and 97 Bulls, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. The 97 Bulls had the second best win percentage in strength of schedule of teams that they had to beat. The 97 Bulls. They had the second best win percentage to go up against, and they had the toughest road to the NBA title. Look at that. Only LeBron's 2016 Cavs faced the team that had the 3rd best win percentage in the entire playoffs. So that means that the 2015 Cavs, the 2017 Cavs, the 2018 Cavs, the 2014 Heat, 2013 Heat, 2012 Heat, and 2011 Miami Heat, along with LeBron's other teams, with the exception of the 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers, really didn't face that strong of competition, did he? Up until the finals, right? So Hakeem Olajuwon became the first and only player, along with LeBron James in 2016, to lead a finals title team in 5 out of 5 categories for the entire playoffs. However, LeBron had far more offensive help, as Kyrie averaged 25 for 4 rounds collectively. Hakeem's top scorer was Vernon Maxwell on 14 points per game. Wait, let me read that again. LeBron had far more offensive help, as Kyrie averaged 25 points per game for 4 rounds collectively in 2016. And averaged 27 points in the NBA Finals in 2016. Averaged 29.4 points in the 2017 NBA Finals in a 5-game series. Or let's talk about the fact that Dwayne Wade averaged 26.5 in their first year together with the Miami Heat on 54% shooting. Or let's talk about how Dwayne Wade averaged he averaged 23.9 in 2012. So nearly 24 a game, not that far of a drop off, even though he was starting to decline. And then in 2013, he averaged 20 a game? So in LeBron's 3 finals with Dwayne Wade before 2014, Dwayne Wade gave you 20 plus. In Kyrie Irving's 2 finals appearances in 2016 and 2017, Kyrie Irving gave you 27 plus. Kyrie Irving is a career 28 point per game scorer in the NBA Finals. But yet LeBron has no help. That's crazy. Vernon Maxwell, 14 a game. Otis Thorpe and Kenny Smith, 11 points each, man. It's crazy. No player has had a 5-on-5 in the playoffs, 5x5 in the playoffs, but Hakeem had 3 games in the 94 playoffs in which he put up 5x4. At least 4 points, rebounds, blocks, assists, and steals. Ben Wallace is the only player besides Hakeem with multiple playoff 5x4s for a career. However, Wallace only did it twice. Hakeem did it 8 times, 3 in the 94 playoffs alone. Look at that, man. And in the NBA Finals, look at this. Look at these percentages. In the 94 Finals, Maxwell, 13 on 37% shooting. They went against the Knicks, who were the second best defensive rating that team that year. Robert Horry, 10 on 32% shooting. Sam Cassell, 10 points on 42% shooting. Now, this isn't really like crazy. It's really not that crazy in terms of with the Cavaliers, but it is slightly better. Gordon, Gooden, 13 on 50. Gibson, 11 on 44%. Pavlovich, 10 on 36. It's not crazy. So, we look at it that way. Patrick Ewing was shut down to a horrendous 36% by Hakeem for the 94 playoffs and only had one good offensive performance in Game 5 in spite of the fact that Hakeem completely shut down Ewing in all but one game. The Knicks still pushed the Rockets to 7 with all 7 games decided by single digits and averaged 6 points per game margin. Had Ewing shot even 40%, the Knicks would have likely won the championship in spite of Hakeem's play. If carrying the entire team on offense and defense wasn't enough, Hakeem also made plenty of clutch plays in the finals as well. Hakeem, I think, averaged 26 and 9 in that series. The go-ahead assisted Cassell with 33 seconds left in Game 3. A clutch steal on Starks with 40 seconds left in Game 6. Hakeem was fouled and pushed the lead to 4. The series-saving block in Game 6 against Sean Starks. And then the 81 Rockets. You got Moses Malone, Calvin Murphy, Robert Reed, Billy Paul's, Mike Dunleavy. Competition was okay for the most part. The Kings, they had it. It was the weaker team. And then the Celtics, the 81 Celtics that won 62 games. And they're the 81 Rockets are the only team in NBA Finals history to make the finals with a losing record. So we got to remember that as well. But, I just wanted to, so that pretty much, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So what I wanted to show you right there was this whole exposing the narratives of LeBron James and just stats to just prove that this whole thing that Michael Jordan that he had crazy much more amount of help than LeBron James coming out with this stupid ass nonsense, thinking that basketball, talking about that Michael Jordan played in a very tough defensive era compared to what LeBron James has played in. And I've been saying this for years about LeBron's 2007 Cavaliers. I've been saying it for years. And people just say, "Oh, you're a LeBron James hater." When I kept telling you, he ain't played that crazy competition like that in 07, man. I kept telling y'all this. I kept saying this in all my past videos. I'm not trying to hate on LeBron. LeBron is an amazing player, all-time great. But let's call facts on facts. He did not play that crazy competition, ladies and gentlemen. And I keep telling you that LeBron James did not face this crazy competition. I keep telling you. People are getting all upset. And I said, look how weak look what I just showed you. The 2000 Pacers, the 01 Sixers, the 02-03 Nets. They just showed you 4 of the weakest Eastern Conference teams in NBA playoff history. In NBA history. It just tells you how long that the Eastern Conference has been weak. And LeBron had an even better luxury in his career in the conference he played in. But then they want to say, "Oh, Lord, Lewis, you're just a spewing hater." I just proved to you, ladies and gentlemen, right there, that Michael Jordan, yes, he was getting bounced out in the first round. Yes, he was 1-9 without Scottie Pippen. But this notion that Michael Jordan had this crazy amount of help is ridiculous. Because there's a lot of players on Michael Jordan teams that were in early in his career that a lot of people can't even name. They just go off and just say, "Oh, look who he lost to." And I remember spitting the messages about the teams that he lost to. The 67 wins Boston Celtics, the 59-win Milwaukee Bucks, the 59-win Boston Celtics, also the 54-win Detroit Pistons, then loses to 63-win Detroit, and then 57-win Detroit. Those aren't slouch teams right there. The lowest amount of wins that Michael Jordan even faced through the first 6 years of his career was 54-win Detroit. That's the lowest. The highest, 67 wins by Boston in 86. The lowest. Jordan faced 2 60-win teams in that stretch. And the Milwaukee Bucks of 84-85 almost won 60 games themselves at 59. The Celtics were 1 win away from 60 in 87. So that means Michael Jordan, in 4 of his first 6 seasons, he would have gone against 60-win teams early in the playoffs. And he did it with Boston in 86. In 1989, went against the 63-win Detroit Pistons that had the best record in the NBA. I mean, yo, you just gotta call it the way it is, man. Like, I be telling y'all cats, man. But once again, it is your boy Lewis, ladies and gentlemen, with another one, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, man, what I just did in terms of exposing this whole notion about LeBron's NBA Finals appearances and the fact that LeBron James had all these weak supporting cast. But history shows you that not even the 2018 Cleveland Cavaliers are on that list of weak supporting cast. Exposing more narratives out here. But you already know the motto is always, man, bless up. One love. Peace. Thanks for watching. You already know the drill, my man. DJ, hit that outro.
Crowdy. All these computers, all these social networks, and these computers got these niggas walking around like they some shooters. See them in real life, they're trying to bust maneuvers. Like pussy talk that same shit from your computer. I had to let you know that I got a crush on you.
Hey yo, shorty, won't you go get a bag of the lethal? I'll be undressed in the bra all see-through. While you count your jewels, thinking I'ma cheat you. The only one thing I wanna do is freak you. Keep your stone sets, I got my own baguettes. And I'll be doing things that you won't regret. Little Kim the queen bee, so you best take heed.